Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Epilogue. Geek Crimson. The End of Millennia Game. Stop it. I like you, so I can't bring myself to kill you anyway, and I don't intend to fight you seriously now. However, to keep the world from falling apart, I will continue to be a demon lord. That's the promise I made to him, you know. He liked Rudra in the first place, and if he was a friend of Veldanava, then he was also a friend of his own. It was inevitable that Heckle not fight Rudra seriously from the start. However, he still had to do his job as a demon lord. That was the role Veldanava had asked him to play. As a mediator, he could not allow the scales of the world to tip. When Guy looked Rudra in the eye and said as such, Rudra also looked straight back at Guy and responded. In that case, why don't we play a different game? A different game, huh? Rudra nodded. He didn't smile coyly as usual, but instead began speaking with a serious expression. Yeah. You and I won't be fighting directly. This time we will be using only our pawns to compete for world dominance. To be honest, I don't want to use this Justice King Michael, but I can't say that now. Veldanava gave me this power in support of my dream to unite the world. So I will continue to increase my men and will become stronger along with it. I'm sure you will. Guy nodded, agreeing with that assessment. I don't want to kill you either. I told you, didn't I? I said that I'd make you accept me. I believe that the human race can be united. Veldanava wanted diversity, but that doesn't mean we have to fight each other. People with different opinions should respect and get along with each other. If one can't accept the other person's opinion, then just pull away. Different races, different nations, if they are too armed, they will end up in war, but if they become a unified nation, they can settle everything through discussion, right? I don't know about that. As far as I'm concerned, people are stupid, aren't they? I know. But, you know, you and I get along, right? Even demon lords and heroes who were supposed to be each other's natural enemies can get along, so it should be easier for the same race to understand each other. There is no need for a mediator, Rudra insisted. However, Guy couldn't agree. That's naive. Humans are greedy creatures. It's not necessarily an evil thing, and that desire is necessary to pursue greater possibilities. That's why, as long as interests are at stake, even those who are close to each other will start fighting even amongst themselves. In this respect, the monster without wisdom knows better, right? The magical creatures that evolved from animals into magical beasts would not kill again as long as their appetite was satisfied. They were not cunning and resourceful enough. They would not think about securing food for tomorrow, but rather live each day with pleasure. However, humans were different. Humans always thought about the future, became anxious, and tried to accumulate wealth so that they could withstand any situation. That was their natural instinct, and Rudra's vision of the world was a pipe dream. It was very difficult to lead people with words alone. In the first place, how difficult was it to convey one's true intentions in words to others without misunderstandings? He understood this, which was why he felt that Rudra's dream would never come true. Well, perhaps. I get it, and Veldanava laughed at me for being so idealistic, but even so, I convinced him, and now he supports me. He told me, the probability is close to zero, but just do what you want. Between you and me, the Justice King has the power of the army of angels, Armageddon, and can summon an army of angels to destroy everything. I will use it to save people. I will destroy only military power and civilization and suppress the growing desires of men. At the same time, I will unify the world and build an ideal world for sure. So, cheer me on, Rudra asked Guy to support him. Stop killing people and value their potential. It's not like I'm into slaughtering people. I just get rid of those I don't like. I don't care if they're a good guy or a bad guy. If I like them, I let them live. If I don't like them, I kill them. That's all. That's what I'm saying. Just wait for a bit. I don't have the patience to wait for those who do harm to the world to realize their mistakes. Hate the sin, not the sinner. Punishment is necessary for sin, asshole. You should be held accountable for your actions. You're right, I agree. But I want them to have a chance to change their ways. Then don't worry. I'll just send the souls of the guilty to the underworld and give them a proper punishment. That's not what I meant. At this point, Rudra stopped narrating and carefully began to speak his mind once again. I'm not trying to be some great king, I just want to make people smile. If there is a safe place to live and people to talk to, there will be fewer people who will commit crimes, right? I want to eliminate poverty and inequality and create a world where everyone can live with a smile. That's what I want. Of course, there will be fools who can't help themselves, but I'm going to try to make as few sacrifices as possible. Rudra spoke of his ideals, not knowing that one day in the distant future, similar words would come from the mouth of one of his own opponents. Guy, hearing this, shook his head in disgust. No wonder Veldanava was laughing at you. I didn't know you were that naive. But, okay. Just tell me more about this game. Really? I was bored anyway. It might be fun to play a game like that. It wasn't that Guy had accepted Rudra's point of view. He didn't want to deny Rudra's ideals, he just wanted to see how it ended. His stubborn friend would never be persuaded by words alone. Rudra was trying to persuade others with words alone, even though he himself could not be. It was a contradiction in a sense, and it was only natural that he would fail. When that happened, he supposed that Rudra would finally wake up. On the chance that he succeeded, it would only mean less work for Guy. So no matter how things turned out, Guy decided that there would be no loss. There was also no particular benefit, but if Rudra was willing to give up his reckless plan, that was enough for Guy. Is my ambition just a game to you? Rudra laughed. Then he carefully explained the rules. The rules were simple. Players keep their hands to themselves and only let their men compete. That was it. In other words, there was no direct confrontation between Guy and Rudra. If all of Guy's men fell, Rudra would win. If that happened, Guy would follow Rudra. But until that happened, Guy was free to do as he pleased. He was also free to fulfill his role as mediator in accordance with his agreement with Veldanava. There were few restrictions on Guy, but from Rudra's point of view, this was useful enough. His original role as a hero was to stop the Demon Lord, a threat to humanity and a regulator, from running amok. Guy's thoughts were calm, but his power was too strong. Once he made a move, the damage would be too great. Rudra was there to prevent that from happening, but that would not fulfill his dream. He needed to stop Guy's movements in order to start working towards the unification of the world. After reading Rudra's intentions, Guy spoke. Fine. I promise I will not do anything. I'll gather up some demon lords to take my place and leave the direct punishment of mankind to them. And I will stop them. I will unite the world before the demon lords take over. But that's a difficult road, isn't it? Even the good-natured Veldanava has given up on some of his ideals. Veldanava was not just a dreamer, but also a perfectionist. He had the rationality to perceive ideals as ideals and the unrealizable ones as unrealizable. Veldanava's desire for change had led him to give up his omniscience and omnipotence, which made it no longer possible for him to realize his ideal society. But for Veldanava, it was the right thing to do. He believed that a world that was completely at his disposal was not interesting at all. It was because he understood Veldanava's feelings that Rudra exclaimed. But even so, I want to make him feel assured. He is bound by his lifespan and has no more power than a normal human. And yet, he was so happy that he could even die with Lucia. But the truth is, he was worried about the future of this world. More than anything, he was worried about the future of their children. That's why I need to give him peace of mind and create a world where everyone can live happily, where he won't have to worry at all when he dies. And I want him to be satisfied that the world he created has matured into a wonderful, harmonious world. Rudra swore to Veldanava that he would establish a unified nation. He also wished to make his sister Lucia happy and resolved to rid the world of all unhappiness. Let us decide the affairs of the human world with our own hands. You, who do not have a life expectancy, can be the judge and see things to the very end. I see. Guy couldn't think of anything to say in response to Rudra's words. In his head, he determined that it was impossible. However, he could also understand Rudra's feelings, so he hesitated to say something negative. What the hell, asshole? Doesn't that just make you the one who has to carry all the responsibility? He hated his mind for being so emotionally intelligent. Guy, although prideful, was kind to those he liked. That kindness was not enough to stop Rudra's reckless challenge. Guy was at a loss for words to say to this foolish man who was also his beloved best friend. Your challenge is sure to fail. Guy's brain calmly calculated the results. The success rate was so low that it was ridiculous to even use the word probability to describe it. And yet, Rudra, whom Guy considered his best friend, would never give up. A hero was someone with an unbreakable spirit, and Rudra was a true hero who was willing to bear all hardships in order to realize the ideal world. That's why, if it was this guy, just maybe, he thought so. There was something about Rudra that made him think like that, and Guy bet on that tiny possibility. However, the result was. Since the start of the game between Guy and Rudra, many tragedies had occurred. The first tragedy occurred just after Veldanava and Lucia had their child. Millennia. A terrorist attack took place in the Nazca kingdom, taking advantage of Rudra's expedition. It was the work of a warring enemy and resulted in the deaths of both Lucia and Veldanava. At that moment, Rudra's dreams came crashing down. I just wanted Veldanava to feel reassured, to accept us. Rudra killed his heart, knowing that his lamentations could no longer be heard. All that was left is ideal that had lost its purpose. You still want to do this? Yes. All I have left is this game with you. Your approval is the only thing I have left. Alright then. I'll keep playing with you. And so, the game continued. The next tragedy befell Millennia, Veldanava's daughter. Millennia had grown up without knowing her own parents' faces. She didn't even know that she was related to Rudra. Millennia's only family member and protector, her pet, was killed in some state plot. Millennia lamented in grief and burst into a rage. It was decided that Guy would do everything in his power to appease Millennia. If he hadn't stopped her, many nations would have perished. You still want to do this? If I had acted sooner, Millennia wouldn't have been sad, would she? It's my fault. But even so, if we stop now, all the sacrifices we've made up until now will be for nothing. As emperor, it is my responsibility to not give up now. I don't think so, but whatever. I'll stay with you until you're satisfied. If he stopped here, Rudra would break. So Guy had no choice but to delay the conclusion. An unhappy future was guaranteed. That's what he believed, but it was not yet certain. And so, the game continued. Repeated tragedies. The ugliness of the human world at hand. With each reincarnation, his holy power slowly depleted and Rudra gradually lost his qualification as a hero. Even so, Rudra remained a saint because of his desire and dedication to his ideals. But even so, there eventually came a limit. At some point unknown to him, Rudra's mind corroded and his original ideals were lost. As was the habit of those who had lost sight of their purpose, he was willing to use any means necessary to defeat Guy. Ruthless and cruel. Defeating Guy was all that mattered, and in the end, more blood would be spilled. It was just how Guy had judged it. Finally, the day had come. Guy bet on the last possibility, all according to the rules of the game. He entrusted the most unknown and hopeful of his pawns, Rimuru, to be the final judge. In all honesty, he wanted to make the move himself. But Guy obeyed the rules to the end. As a result, in the distance, the breath of his friend vanished. I'm sure it's not just Rimuru who could have done it, Guy couldn't help but sigh. There was no bitterness or regret. There was only mourning for the man who was his best friend. That's why I told you, asshole. Like this kind of thing is only right for us as demons, who have never been emotionally shaken. Muttering this, Guy did not notice the tear running down his cheek. He just prayed silently for Rudra's soul. And just like that, the millennia-long game between Guy and Rudra came to an end. While maintaining his usual fearless smile, Guy's heart inwardly sank with grief. Blue diamond eyes stared coldly at Guy. A small twisted smile forms on her lips. The game was over, but the seeds of conflict were still smoldering. And that would be the signal for the beginning of the worldwide demon war, Tenma. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.